It is an absolutely beautiful morning, as you can see in the reflection of my window, and I wanted to say something because I felt like it. Of course, if we're constantly getting the so-called silent treatment for the fourth time in a row, it's probably because there is a pattern. The pattern could be with you, but it could also be with the other person. And I want to just throw a couple of principles and rules and ideas out there and just kind of pull them out of my ass a little bit and just see if they resonate, see if there's something that you can use there. Because I realize throughout my own content, I don't know if a lot of people resonate with it, because maybe I just go way too deep and I'm just not on the same level as a lot of people. But then after I actually saw this comment here, I was like, damn, maybe I gotta get in touch with people a little bit more. I gotta see the struggles that people are dealing with, such as the silent treatment and things like this. That's where I should help people resolve their problems, right? And I haven't really touched on this topic really since that last big video that you probably watched. So my first tip, I suppose, is read the 4 Agreements book. To be fair, I think the 4 Agreements book is in line with the Bible if you're a Christian, so that's fair by me. But it's the second and third principle in the book that really take the spotlight where I'm about to shine. The second principle is don't take things personally. The book will explain why. And the third principle in that book is do not make assumptions. Because assumptions, as far as I understand them to be, are actually accusations. And if we accuse someone, how do you feel when you get accused, right? It doesn't feel very nice when we are accused. Even me, recently, I was accused of being defensive and justifying myself. And I had this internal feeling that I needed to dish out the same sort of retort to other people who were making me feel that they were being justifying and defensive and this sort of stuff. So a justification and an excuse are literally just a so-called reason. Whether they're real or not real, it doesn't really matter. Another thing, I mean, if you scroll down my videos, you might come across some other ideas, but recalling one of them is that people treat each other the way they've been treated. And I don't know who this is, it could be your sister. She's potentially treating people the way she's been treated. So if someone has shut down her emotions all the time, maybe that's her default response. Maybe she shuts down and she shuts down other people. The people we look up to are the ones who we kind of resemble the treatment that we've been given. Another thing, if you were to scroll back to a very recent video of mine, I talk about cycles, and it's nothing to do with sisters and family per se, it's more about romantic partners, but the principle is the same. There is a cycle going on, and if we were to break the cycle, it's literally the cycle. The cycle is where our attention should be, and the cycle that is within our control. If we are able to replace a component in the cycle, then things over time will change. And the easiest visualization I can give you of what this looks like is if you're chasing after someone and that other person is running. And so there's a cycle here, in a sense. One component equals running, another component, which is the effect component, equals fleeing, like chasing after versus fleeing. But what happens if you remove one component in that cycle? From running to stopping. Once you've stopped, you've changed the cycle, because that's what change is. It's A to B. It means the absence of A. The effect component of the cycle transforms from fleeing to relaxing, in a sense. It doesn't have to necessarily be relaxing. Every effect will be different, but that's the idea. And once you've changed that component, it gives you the ability to change again, to go from a more blank slate to a new slate. And I know this has personally happened to me in my own relatives. Like, I have seen this happen, and I was just discussing it yesterday with my own brother. We were talking about our uncle, who he doesn't appear like a good uncle figure anymore. He's like a really bad uncle figure. Like, he's just deep in the mud. And we're like, well, what would change the story? what could be done to resolve his problems. Now, to be truthful, there's nothing, like, there are things we could do. We could reach out. My brother has tried making amends with him, but it's not really within our capacity to change someone else, right? If someone's going to change only if they want to change, right? So our uncle, if he wanted to change his image from being the bad, neglectful uncle, all he has to do is just stop being the bad, neglectful uncle. And at first, no one might even believe him. But then you can go from not being bad to doing the good things. And over time, that might rectify the past problems. Sometimes this can depend on the severity of the problem. You know, it can take a while. My grandmother she had a very bad relationship with her father. Really, really bad. I don't even want to mention it here on TikTok. But somehow, now it's not my place to agree with what she's done or not, I'm just observing. She has forgiven him and they became friends again. And the things that he did were extremely criminal. Let's put it that way. As far as I've been made aware. There's even a book about this guy now. And it's just like, well, I think, yeah, he just changed. He changed from being this disgusting person into this helpful person. You know, he helped my grandmother during a bad time instead of being the cause of the bad time. Another way of putting it like this is, imagine how people say Michael Jackson, the king of rock, is like he touches little children. Something weird like that, you know, a bit pedophilic. I don't quite know what they say about him. But once you have that image of the king of pop and you compare that to touching little children, something changes in your head. You might dismiss it or you might embrace that. It really depends on how much you like or dislike the person, right? I think some weird thing was being rumored about Stan Lee, you know, the writer of Spider-Man and all that. And it's just like, if you can change someone's image from good to bad, it means you can change someone's image from bad to good. And the way we do that is literally just replace components in the cycle, and over time, the image changes. And if we're having a stonewalling sister, for example, and there's a pattern going on for the fourth time in 6 months, then there's something in the cycle that we need to change. We need to go from A to B. And we can only do whatever's on our end. We can't enforce someone else to comply unless you have certain leverage points. And those certain leverage points will probably not be in your favor, such as violence, you know, or extreme bribery. So if I was in your position, I might be looking at, what did I do to compel her to carry out this effect if I am the cause? And sometimes there's nothing that we do that is the cause. If we go back to the 4 agreements there, it's like, let's not take anything personally. Maybe we didn't do anything, and maybe it's just a reflection of how she was treated, right? One thing that definitely has to change is the story in our head. Like, that has to change. The image. It's the image itself that is the biggest component that we have to change. So if you go back to maybe 2 videos of mine, there's a thumbnail on it and they're both blue. I'm really just vlogging and I'm talking about how awesome my life is. And so instead of sitting at the table and complaining that my coffee isn't made by Gordon Ramsay, I'm actually just very happy. Like, my life is awesome. Even my mug says I'm happy. It's like my view is excellent right now. You can see it in the reflection. I've got a beautiful mountain to look at. It's got some trees, some nice buildings to look at. Like, my life is amazing. And when you look at problems the same way, instead of looking at them as this bitter, horrible thing, we look at the thing that we think is horrible, the thing that we think is a problem, a flaw, and we instead turn that into, like, what makes that special? Literally, what makes that special? We've kind of focused our attention away from the things that are happening in the bad light, or that things that haven't happened, and we instead focus our attention on things that we can control, such as our own emotional regulation.